So we pick up again with the mindjacker, who gets a message from the contact, who is naturally incensed by his behavior because the entire plan hinges on taking in Latha alive, and he nearly killed her. His defense, though, is that he wanted to get his revenge on Regis for stuff that, and you have to appreciate this, Regis never actually did to him. Baxter was one of the victims of mindjacking, and the hatred he has for Regis is so great that the mindjacker can't separate his own feelings from the person that he murdered. Well, in either case, now Regis is going to have to be dealt with by the bad guys, but luckily for them, they've figured out where he's hiding, in an abandoned factory. This leads to the other problem that I had mentioned in the first part. Regis is here, waiting, and someone throws a bottle through the window. The bottle has "drink me" printed on it. You are expected to drink the contents, and in fact, the game will not proceed unless you do so. But here's the thing. The game, at this point, is a waiting simulator. You have no current tasks that need to be accomplished. You are just waiting for Lau to show up. So until you pick up the bottle and drink it, the game's current objective is fuck around while waiting for Lau. But there's only so much you could do before running out of tasks. Eventually, you drink the bottle simply because there's nothing else to do. She never shows up. So, doing something stupid is better than doing nothing, I guess. I can think of few situations where I would ever think to do this, because it's just so recklessly foolhardy to drink from a bottle someone you don't know has thrown at you. It would make as much, if not more sense, for me to dump out the contents and put my dick in it.
Down the hatch. I wonder what that did.
That really did little to disprove my point. What he drank was a wetware building colony instructed to build a transceiver in his head so he and the bottle's owner can communicate. You might recognize this as something 20% of all winos say, just that the CIA were the ones that did it to them. The voice warns him that there's a strike team on the way, but she has a way out, through the sewers. But it's not going to be easy. There are guards around, including one on this level who's using stealth technology. You can't see him. But not to worry, I'm a graduate from the School of Carry.
Cobalt 3, camouflage compromised.
Not pig's blood, but it's just as effective. And then a little tasing here, and that takes this guy out of the fight. As for the one on the stairs... Yep, the fastest way to put out a fire are the high winds as you fall to your death. So with him out of the way, we're free to get down to where the exit to the sewers is, but there's one problem. It's locked by a huge padlock. We just don't want anything getting out here, or in. Those mutant turtles are dangerous, you know. Well, I'll have to look around for some way to get that lock off, but there's another guard in the way. Too far to tase, and we're fresh out of booze, so no more Molotov cocktails. However, the utilities are still working in this place. For once it's justified. In the wake of the disaster that caused them to abandon this area, no one actually cut access, and the draw here is so low that it's gone unnoticed in the years since then. What that means, then, is we can give this guy the Monopoly 1-2 punch. First the waterworks, and then the electric company. What's really surprising is he didn't get cut in half by the laser as he fell over. I thought that was one of those laws of lasers. The same way that if you shoot someone on the top of a building, they have to fall over the edge somehow. After getting past the next guard, which the control method used in the game does not make easy, we switch on the power for a robot arm. Alas, it is not close enough to rip the lock off with its super strength. Instead, by cranking the laser up until it blasts through the wall and the floor, we can redirect it using a metal disc set in one of the robot's arms, and with that laser, melt the lock right off. One of those rare moments when you can actually shoot the lock off. But now we can open the door and enter the sewers in triumph.
Regis!
It's good to see you in the flesh as well, Lau.
What do you mean, in the flesh?
You weren't the one sending messages through a transceiver in my head?
If I had a nickel for every time I asked someone that. Lau brings up the murder thing, and, well, that's a touchy subject, but even though Regis is the one who most likely would want to see Baxter dead, Lau points out that it just isn't in his character.
But after what you tried to do with the bomber last night?
What about it?
You tried to save his life, even though he'd come here intending to murder as many as he could.
It was the right thing to do.
I've worked with you long enough to know how you work, Regis. What Baxter did didn't drive you to revenge. It's motivated you to try and make the world a better place.
Well, I'm glad somebody noticed that I don't go around trying to kill everything for no reason. We really need to coordinate our next move, so we're going to meet with this mysterious benefactor in the flesh. Though there is an aspect to that choice of wording that is... you'll see in a moment. As we move into Chapter 7, the game takes a detour into the past, where we can see Vargas do his Avengers Assemble in order to put together his team. The only new face here is Dr. Jen. Well, technically Baxter too, since he was missing his head when we caught up with him. We actually get a chance to talk to him as we go around the room meeting people.
I'm Dr. Pereira.
Yes.
I thought I might get to know who I'm going to be working with.
Oh, right. Certainly. Adam Baxter.
Wait, that's not Baxter. I know who that really is.
Have you seen this before anywhere?
Look at that. If you had an artist's rendering in court, it wouldn't look this close. I'm telling you, Baxter and Inspector Jenks are the same person. Oh, it's wheels within wheels, I'm telling you.
This is something of a last chance for me. We must succeed.
Yeah, I'm sure it is after what happened in Contradiction. I've got my eye on you, Jenks. In the present, Latha is heading to a trance den, though not for the rec purposes like she would prefer, but rather to meet up with Jinsel. Problem is the bouncer/owner won't let her in, not without doing him a favor first. No, not that kind of favor. He wants her to use her hacking to get the water turned back on. Said he turned it off because he wasn't paying the bill. If only he'd set it up in an abandoned factory, huh? Damn, 1 kph and it did that? What'd they make the car out of? Graham crackers? Luckily that's not the bouncer's car, so now she can get in there, turn the water back on, and then go inside and get into the trance.
She looks so starved and ragged. It's people like her that give trancers a bad rep.
Guess we all can't be the picture of vitality that you are. Inside she finds, well, this. This is the internet of the future? I was just trying to check my bank balance. Her ninja friend is downstairs and has more info, but for security, we need to get everyone else off the server. That will be Mandela's job because, that's beyond what a group of elite hackers could do. We deduce that the dancers are Russians celebrating a big sports win, so we just block their country's access and that gets rid of them. As for the disembodied head, he's not going to be convinced, so in the real world, we bust the sewer pipe above his physical head. Hardcore, I know, but desperate times and all that. Then we steal from the girl at the bar and tell her that she's been robbed, so she leaves to go after the thief in the real world. The fact she doesn't dig through Latha's pockets suggests that maybe this stuff rots your brain after all. That's still not enough, though. Apparently there are some people in here playing games, and they might be a risk, so they've got to go too. Well, it is just games after all. It's not the end of the world. Does this mean we won or we lost? I suppose seeing a city hit by a hydrogen bomb is its own reward. Well, we need these two to vamoose, and naturally they'd rather stay and keep hitting cities with bombs. So Mandela hacks into the controls here and disables the user's God mode, so the next time the bomb goes off, they all get knocked off the server. Good. That just leaves these last two, but this one guy is never going to leave.
So, you're Domino?
The one and only. No doubt you've seen my live feed. I guess you've come to get a glimpse of your sporting idol in action.
Yeah, the only way to get him to leave is to end his winning streak. And someone who live streams winning streaks is probably not the kind of person you can casually dethrone in PvP. Once you're posting videos of yourself playing games on the net, you've either reached the point of hardcore theory crafting, or somebody asked you to do a review of it and you stupidly said yes. After losing to this guy about 40 times, I finally checked, and it turns out it's impossible to beat him. He's cheating. Well, it's not like he's hacking the game engine or anything, but he's filling himself with performance-enhancing drugs in the real world, so it's impossible to have faster reflexes than him. It would take a miracle to win.
The kingdom of heaven is nearly upon us. We must prepare and seek his salvation.
Right, okay. Do you by any chance have like a Bible verse I can use to knock somebody off a server? You know, maybe some kind of weaponized psalms or something I can use to take these guys out?
The book says to use what he has given us, and I have been blessed with powerful barbiturates.
Hallelujah! 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 Hallelujah!
So with them cleared off, we can finally get down to business. Oh, don't worry about the bartender. He's just a computer program like Sheffy, only without the spunk. Literally in the case of the Sexbot version, I suppose. Her ninja friend explains that Mandela has a sync rate with the trance that is absolutely unprecedented. No one in the world is better suited to being in the trance than she is. This probably is the reason why she's being targeted, but to get more information, they're going to need to have someone be a relay. And since Guy is indisposed after his previous incident, they're going to need her to do it. She's not crazy about this idea, but she can't very well spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder either, especially when the bullet will come over the physical shoulder that she doesn't want to be using. We switch back to the past so that we can catch up on what's been going on with them, including the fact that Viksha and Regis are married now, and of course, planning those kids.
Going for the test tube baby option then.
It'll be a whole lot easier to screen for anything we might pass down.
With Charlie's background, I'm surprised he's not growing them himself. And again, they might go bang if he did it. Too far?
Yes.
Geez, I wouldn't make that crack, and I'm an asshole. She talks with Dr. Vargas after he's done getting his brain mapped, and he explains that there's a problem with the neurotissue in their living computer Frankenstein thing. They can't flash-grown a clone because that leaves out the important neurotissue. So she finally has an idea. Why don't you use our embryos? Brings a whole new meaning to take your child to work day, huh? Back in the present, Regis arrives for that meeting. It's a fancy restaurant closed for the evening for this party, and the voice in his head is revealed to be none other than Jen. No surprise, she was the only one left from the team after all. She's here with the rest of her posse. Councilman Dean, the politician of course, Ran Shao Man, the corrupt and disgusting businessman, and then there's...
Imogen Natalia Revilla Quintanilla de Flores.
Is that her name or her fucking family tree?
Already spoken to Mr. Stepford here.
Oh my, yes.
God, I've died and gone to hell, haven't I? They've gathered to work towards bringing down Central, and they'll help Regis with his problems if he'll help them with theirs. So he has to make the rounds with all the guests, like she of the excessively long name, whose primary contribution to them is networking. She's the one who was able to hook the group up with Vanderwall for his criminal connections.
That's all for now, Miss Flores.
Please, darling, just Imogen.
Imogen? Sounds like an antidepressant advertised on late-night TV. Imogen is not for everyone. Side effects include headaches, nausea, and dry mouth. Shoman is up next, and he is intolerable. This guy's the big money behind this, because he plans to make even more with Central gone. Seems the all-seeing AI is too good at catching him bribing people to get his way, so take it out and run a big magnet over it is his view. As far as Stepford's concerned, he wants to remove Central and replace it with their new AI, one that they would be able to control. And that just leaves Councilman Lobot here. He's got a governor in his head to make him always and only tell the truth. He's here because Central is starting to deviate from the original intent. The AI was supposed to ensure that council decisions were carried out, but Central has developed its own points of view and has become passive-aggressive with issues that it doesn't agree with. Replacing it will ensure that the city's decisions will be properly carried out instead of deliberately messed up in order to try to get them to stop. So these are the people I've been thrown in with, huh? Paris Hilton, a pig businessman, C-3PO, and a politician, trying to take down the most sophisticated computer in the world. I really don't like our odds. And the company isn't winning me over, especially when it's revealed that the cuisine is Soylent Green minus the green. Human meat. It's cloned, although Showman, who recommended the place, is disappointed that it's not actual poor people that he's eating, because he has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. If he gave a glass of water to a dying man, it only meant that he pissed in it first. They almost deserve what happens next.
Everyone, take cover!
Another suicide bomber. The worst part is that now you're not going to be able to tell the difference between bomb victim, and the stuff they're serving on the menu. Lady Prozac is killed in the blast. The others are all paranoid now. It had to be one of their number who did this, but who and why? They decide that Regis should investigate. He's experienced in that kind of thing, of course, and he had no way to set this up, so he's in the clear. And plus, we are familiar with the stuff in his inventory, so taking him over will be the best. Alright, well, it's not like I've got a CSI staff shoved down the front of my pants, so I've seen about all I can see up here, and I've questioned the witnesses, so I guess the next thing to do is to ask the chef how one of his waiters was replaced by a suicide bomber. Unless the guy really did just apply for a job here, and it was a coincidence this was his target. I hate it when my private life and my work life intersect.
A cell agent? Well, alright. Just be careful what you touch. This place is half kitchen, half lab.
All nightmare. This kind of reminds me of Larry Niven's story about a human diplomatic party visiting some aliens. They had to undergo a medical exam upon arriving, only they find out afterward that, although this was necessary for health reasons, the locals have a habit of cloning and eating other species. You could sign a form and then they'll clone your tissues and get royalties from it. Or you could just refuse. But if you do that, well, eventually your DNA is going to wind up on the black market anyway, and people will just make bootleg versions of your flesh and then eat it. So you might as well take the money. It's like this, in that there's no neuro tissue. Unlike this, it still manages to be less creepy. Some people even eat dishes made of themselves here. We finally found the place that will make Gordon Ramsay hang up his apron and say, "Screw this, I will never eat again." Things are especially disturbing when Regis points out that one of the supposed clones has the wrong color hair. It's the waiter that was replaced. And he was nearly chopped up and served to people. I don't care how bad your day at work was, it wasn't as bad as this guy's was, I guarantee it. Just about the only place left to look is the bathroom, and it seems the mirror is out of order. Mine certainly seems to be. Every time I look into it, I just see an old man. The vent cover is ajar, and a check reveals a possible way in from the outside. But alas, it's too dark to really check and see. I don't have a flashlight on me. Hey, I was coming to a meeting, not preparing to do some duct work. No answers yet, though. The guards have little to add. They're not human, by the way. They're synths. They don't all look alike just because they're white. Their boss is a synth too, actually. Although you're probably not surprised. No one can be that annoying without being programmed for it. Even Neelix needs to take a break once in a while. Speaking of taking a break, one of the bots in the kitchen is shut down. So Regis figures maybe Stepford, get the name now, can look it over and see what's up.
Dr. Regis, Oh my.
Seems he's completely drained his Cheerio. His wangle is all twisted, and his motivational circuits are all set to "that's not cricket."
Oh, I know what's going on. The cavity magnetron in the growth array. It generates a huge mag flux in here.
It broke them. Is it permanent?
What do I look like, a tech?
No, you look like a direct-to-DVD horror movie villain. Well, I still have the personality splitter, although the previous ones were wiped. Too bad. I'd really like to put Sheffy in one of these guards and see what she would make of that guy's kitchen. I use it on Stepford to get his mind stuff, and then try putting just the memory in one of the guards. It's not much of a help. I'd hoped that if he was involved, I could get the guard to tell me with just the raw memory, but no, I'm going to have to take it a step further than I would have liked.
Me.
Oh my, yes.
What's the situation?
Just dandy, my good man.
Dear God, I've created Foppenstein. Well, with that ruled out, I suppose we can only switch all three on and discuss the matter with Stepford. He confirms that it was a powerful magnetic field that shut him down. It'll shut down any synth that gets in there. So that rules him out as a suspect. The bomber couldn't hang that body up there with his physical ailments, and the synths couldn't get in the room to do it. So, I still have 3 suspects left. I'll need to narrow this down further somehow. I check around that entryway for DNA from whoever might have helped the bomber in. And the sequence says that the source is male, so that rules out our old co-worker. I also find a note written in English, which rules out Showman because, well, he can't read English, never mind write it, which means that the councilman is the only suspect by default. It's the old clue strategy. He freely confesses to Regis in private. He was not acting on his own behalf, though, but Vanderwall. Remember him? The guy was blackmailing the councilman. That's what got him into this conspiracy and made him Vanderwall's trump card in it. If anything happened to Vanderwall, then the councilman was to arrange this revenge, or else his secrets would be made public. The councilman suggests that Regis point the finger at Schumann. The guy might not be guilty of this particular crime, but he is responsible for who knows how many deaths and is by every measure utterly loathsome. Yeah, if it's a choice between him being on the committee or the councilman, well, the latter truly is the lesser of 2 evils.
What are you doing?
Wait, stop!
That was a bit excessive, though. Ironic in a way, killed by the one law that he could never corrupt, gravity. The conspiracy gives him a lead on where to get the embryos. They are indeed with the mindjacker, who's operating out of an old aerostat hangar. But first, in the past, Regis is busy losing his shit when he finds out that Viksha agreed to use their embryos in the experiment. She finally comes around to his point of view and agrees that they will be excluded from the experiment. If only they knew what Bastard Jinx had in store for them. The past scenes are devoid of puzzles. They are just narrative, but they do allow you to choose responses, which helps to shape your perception of the events. I doubt these have any impact on the game, but they do allow the player to feel more invested in the character even if it isn't puzzle solving. Witnessing events has more of an impact than merely having it told to you, and participating has more of an impact than witnessing. So, we're to the penultimate chapter, and Latha has found the aerostat hangar, now under new management. Thug Incorporated, a division of Villain Co. The guard inside doesn't shoot her on sight, but he doesn't tolerate her messing around any. Lucky thing that she's got those drugs from the street preacher, though. And that never stops sounding weird, actually. Mind you, you're going to want to be careful. You don't want to wind up owing money to a drug dealer when he works for God. I mean, his boss can always find you. There's going to be only one set of footprints in the sand, and it'll show you getting your ass kicked. So, the best way to get on that aerostat where all the tech equipment is going to be to smuggle her into one of those crates. The manifest shows there's a lot of stuff here. Human organ replacement, technical equipment. Here's a shipment of Mandala Beware. Well, that could mean anything. I should really just get back to the plan. Everything should be just fine.
The simulations exceeded its buffer.
Took her long enough. I think Jinsil did a pretty good job on that one.
Betrayed! I can't believe I was betrayed by Jinsil! It's beyond the pale! Oh, I bet she wasn't even a real ninja either. With her trapped in limbo, we're going to have to shift the action over to someone else. And it's Regis, who has come here in search of his embryos. Yeah. He sneaks aboard the aerostat, but there's a guard here, and his own weapon is out of power. Damn. Well, if there's one thing I've learned from the conspiracy, it's how you deal with a problem. Gravity. Let all your problems just drop away. We also find a thermal visor like the guards use. This could be handy. At the very least, I can spot places with insufficient insulation in my home to save money on my heating bills. Plus, it also allows you to see figures that are on the other side of walls. That's very useful. Let's say, for sake of argument, I have a rivet gun and I'm going to use it against a wall, but it just so happens someone is leaning on the other side. See, with a thermal visor, I would be able to tell that was dangerous. Regis heads inside and finds Galatea, who plays the victim, but he's too smart to fall for that.
Human experimentation! This poor girl! You see that hardware in the corner?
What the hell did you...
Fooled you! The mindjacker returns and is delighted to see Regis lying on the floor helpless. Then he destroys those embryos one by one as Regis can do nothing to stop him. Dick.
This is something I've been looking forward to for a long time.
Ugh, no you haven't. Baxter was looking forward to it.
Yeah, revenge is the kind of thing you really shouldn't outsource. After the last of the embryos are destroyed, there's word that cell reinforcements have arrived. But the mindjacker has plans to deal with them, except he has no idea who their newest agent is.
Gotcha!
Sheffy, now with Kung Fu grip. Lau heads in and helps give Regis a counter-agent while the aerostat takes off, but unfortunately, the mindjacker has slipped away when the maid ran out of juice. And Regis is too weak after his ordeal to keep going, so it looks like we'll be taking over Lau once again. She looks around and finally decides to see what she can find out when she integrates with the system that Latha is hooked up to. Inside, she sees a tableau of the murder of Dr. Baxter, and soon she's talking to the man himself. It seems that, with the revenge still stuck in the mindjacker's head, Baxter himself is quite a mellow and cooperative guy. He even asks for her to pass along his apology to Regis when she sees him. He's really just about the nicest murderer you're ever going to meet. She returns to the real world and Regis fesses up about what was going on, but that with the embryos destroyed they no longer have any leverage over him and he can stop this mindjacker and his collaborator for good. There's no explaining why they were doing this, though. We're thinking corporate espionage might have been the motive, but that doesn't explain others like Baxter who are experts in their field, but not in business. Nor explain why they've been dumped into this wet vac that they've hooked up to Latha. So Lau is going to have to do some real hero shit right now, shutting down one of the turbines and then crawling along the exterior of the aerostat in order to get in the back way. But there's still a problem with that. There's another guard in there. And a big-ass turret, too, with an AI on board, one that uses voice authentication. Well, what this guy doesn't realize is that this ship uses non-flammable lifting gas. In other words, helium. So it doesn't go up like the Hindenburg, you know. But if you release enough of that into the room...
Verify identity. Voice print required.
Cobalt 1, hey, what happened?
Voice print not identified.
No, wait, it's Cobalt 1 8 Sigma.
Voice print not identified.
Die, chipmunk scum! It shoots the shit out of the guy to the point that it runs out of bullets. Well, this is great because Lau has that personality splitter and so accesses the AI. And guess what she does with that?
Hello?
Hi there.
How do you feel?
I'm just dandy, thanks. Except I'm all out of ammo.
Sheffy's got a gun. Well, if I load this thing up with bullets, then I've got everything I need to get that door open.
Blast that door. Well?
I'm real sorry, Dr. Max. I just don't know how to drive this thing.
What?
I could make you a martini, though. Would that help?
Oh, crap. I forgot I put a bit of the bartender in this thing, too. It gives a whole new meaning to downing shots, doesn't it? Well, that's quick to fix.
Blast that door.
Stop! Just stop shooting at us! You'll blow the whole damned aerostat up!
Why are you talking to me like this is my fault? This is your aerostat. You put the machine gun in here. I didn't have this thing crammed in my back pocket. Below decks, Latha has come to and is horrified at the situation. She's trapped in here with the guy who tried to kill her. So she grabs up his gun, unaware that it's a non-lethal weapon or that it's a signature weapon. You have to have a pretty close approximation genetically to the person it belongs to in order to be able to use it. But that's not what he turns to. Instead, he points out that she's a good person, that she wouldn't do this. It was like Dr. Lau was saying. He looks at the world and tries to make it a better place. Instead of trying to wrestle the weapon away or try to tell her that this is pointless, he appeals to the better part of her nature.
Ah, fuck, you shot me, you crazy bitch!
Once he comes around, Lau tries to figure out how the hell this is all happening. That this girl looks exactly like Galatea, and that she could use Regis's weapon. A scan reveals that she has half of Regis's genome, and he realizes how it all comes together. And just in time for the final chapter. Chapter 10 opens with Baxter learning that the Regises have pulled their embryo from the project, and proceeds to flip his shit. He knocks Regis out and then strangles Viksha while ranting about how this has ended him. Though I think he might have how strangling actually works backwards. They realize what this means. Vargas kept the project going, duplicating the embryo and then continuing, which resulted in Central and Latha, who is Regis's daughter. But before they can think about the implications of that, the aerostat docked, and Galatea and the Mindjaker escaped. Escaped into Vargas's office. Who the hell isn't part of a conspiracy around here? That's what I want to know.
Galatea, my dear, don't do this.
It's too late to stop me now, Father.
Damn it.
If only I was equipped with a running animation, I could have caught them. Yeah, it looks like Vargas isn't in on this particular plan. Galatea is looking to speed up what they're doing using the Mindjacker. Vargas is working to allow Central to learn with its experience. In other words, those deviations and resistances that the councilman mentioned, they're not a bug, they're a feature. Making Central grow mentally in order to understand the world, humanity, and itself over time is the larger part of the plan. But Galatea wants to just upload all those minds instead, creating a gestalt that will accelerate the process in her mind, but undermine what Vargas is trying to do and possibly be disastrous for the city. We catch up just as Galatea enters and locks the top of the tower where she can access Central directly. The others are all stuck downstairs, and they're going to need to work out a plan. Uniquely for this stage, you can swap between the three characters. In fact, in some instances, you have to, so that each can do something while the other one is busy. Saving the world has to be delegated sometimes.
My God, they actually did it.
You fools! Cheese balls were never meant to get that big! We'll need to get help from the conspiracy, so we attach a balloon to a cable and use that to create a makeshift way for them to get in. That's why the Geek Squad drives around with helium tanks in the backs of their cars. But to complete this, we'll need to use the controls in the turbine room. Regis is not the only one who's at work here. While he's seen to that, Latha has returned to the room full of Neuroware, or whatever it is, and gets into the chair of Ultimate Digital Ascension. Inside, she finds Jinsel, and proceeds to rip her a new one for the betrayal and kicks her ass off the server. Upstairs, she has a connection to talk to Central itself, which confirms that Galatea is up to no good. The door is locked by 3 independent security systems that they'll need to get past. The first one can be unlocked by Central or by the conspiracy. That'll be determined once we get control of the turbine room. But there's a problem. The Mindjacker's in there with Regis, and ready to shoot anyone or anything that gets near him. No! That Roomba was just 2 days from retirement! He had a wife and 3 nano iPods at home! Eventually, thanks in part to Regis finding a grenade, those little drones get their revenge on this killer. There's not going to be enough of him left for that chef to put on a cracker. Regis is in position here, so he's going to be the one to have to make a choice. He's going to have to pick between Central and the conspiracy. Now, if he supports Central, well, they're the ones who killed a kid who surrendered peacefully in the name of safety. On the other hand, we can support the conspiracy that killed one of their own for betraying them. So either way, we're picking between killers. Well, Central is the devil I know, and I don't much like that devil. So it looks like GLaDOS is out and the cigarette-smoking man is in.
Dr. Regis, Dr. Lau, I feel I'm...
Warning, all your logic functions not
found.
Yep, sorry, Central, but the risk of repeating such an action was unacceptable. The second lock can be defeated by interrupting power, but it has to be done in 2 places at once. So Lau interrupts it on the first level, and then Regis tosses a wrench into the workings of the elevator to jam it in just the right spot so he can disable the other. Maintenance must be a real bitch around here. Looks like we've got another short. Alright, I'll grab the toolbox and the welding kit. You grab the eye protection and something we can throw into the elevator gears at just the right second. Well, with that, it just leaves the third and final lock, which is forced open inside of the system by Mandala. Only, it dumps her in purgatory.
No need for violence. I surrender. You're just slightly too late to stop me, though.
Oh. Well, I don't know about violence, but I think a good swift kick in the ass is at least warranted. Putting Latha in that chair was actually part of Galatea's plan. All the minds in the device that she just hooked up, that memory module that Regis took from Vanderwall's fridge, are being pulled towards her to upload and fill her mind and presumably destroy her in the process. Baxter is the most cognizant of them all and can see that Mandala is really freaking out about this, so he tries to hold them back while she looks for a way out. In the real world, Regis is seriously pissed off and looks for an answer, but just yanking the thing out would kill Latha. But then he realizes the reason it was in the fridge, to power it down. All they have to do is turn on the cooling system in here, and it will cool down enough for this thing to safely power down, and Latha can get out. Except, well, look at the state of this place. I mean, you've got hackers running about, Central's offline, a wrench is jammed in the elevator, and some guy is ground up in the gearing system. If they try switching this back on, it's going to lock the door. So whoever flips that switch has a good chance of freezing to death in here. Lau refuses to let Regis go through with that. So he leaves the room with her, and then...
Sorry, Max.
Regis, she's a female, transgender, Asian police officer. You've just broken like 600 hate crime laws with that shock. Oh boy, you better hope you die in this room.
Warning, cooling systems active. Target value, -40 Celsius.
Well, you don't need to specify Celsius. They're the same thing at -40. And knowing is half the battle. So once it cools down enough, Latha can escape that prison and get out of the chair. And Regis, they manage to get him out before he dies so he can have that happy reunion with his daughter.
Latha, I need to say it again. I'm sorry.
Damn right you should be. You nearly killed me.
Yeah, okay, not really sure how I can unring that bell. Dearden said that he struggled over how to end the game, that he wanted to avoid the Mass Effect 3 pick-a-color ending, but there were limitations with the AGS and how they could go about expanding it beyond really a binary completion. I won't get into the ending beyond the fact that Regis and Latha get a chance to start over, and that there is clear setup for the sequel. I'm not the greatest expert on cyberpunk, but this was an interesting story experience. The world building on display was really strong, and it added to the richness of the work, strengthening the narrative and enhancing the gameplay experience by its presence. The only story weaknesses were those where the game nature overrode it and required the player to drop character. But still, the game felt very much like an interactive story without the puzzles being intrusive as they can sometimes be in these situations. Technobabylon's visual style may rub people the wrong way, but I think it adds a future retro look to it. And if you don't like the look of that, you could always stare at the cat girl.
A shame. Would rather eat real human. Ultimate sign of control of people.
Eat the poor.
Exactly. That will teach them.